You're tuned into the It's Real podcast with your hosts, Kayla and Andrew Yagi. Each week, we'll talk about what happens behind the scenes working full-time in real estate and share with you real-life stories, our successes and failures as we work to help consumers and industry professionals reach their real estate and real-life goals. Here we go.
Welcome to episode 68 of the It's Real podcast. I'm Kayla and I'm a mortgage lender.
And I'm Andrew Yagi. I'm a real estate agent.
Hi, Andy. How's it going?
Hey, Kayla. I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. It looks like you are somewhere outside of your normal office. Where are you?
I am traveling the country in a southern U.S. state, doing a little bit of flying over a couple of days and actually just heading back today. So it's kind of nice to get out of the office and and fly. And, not to mention, I've had some people in the past that have said, well, boy, if you're flying a little bit too, how can you be efficient or effective as an agent? But Kayla, I would say I get more done the days that I'm away from the office when I'm not, in my normal environment, just because I don't have the distractions. People aren't stopping in my office, calling the office. So I'm able to catch up with people and take care of tasks. And we've got a lot of stuff going on. I mean, I'm kind of surprised just to see how much some of the real estate market is picking up. We'll talk a little bit more about, what's going on nationwide and kind of what some of the experts are saying, as some of them are saying, hey, consumer sentiment isn't great, but I don't know about you, but, we're seeing some activity.
Yeah. I mean, we got 3 apps just last night. I'm seeing a lot of activity. So I think that depending on where you're located, what market, what your motivation level is, and who you are as a real estate agent or lender, and how you're working your business and how you're lead generating, I think that all matters too. But it's picked up for sure.
Yeah, well, and I'm looking forward to the market picking up and our mutual business picking up, the business that we do together. It's been fun having one deal in the works, and you just referred me someone else, which I'm excited about. And Kayla, I'm really excited, not only to work with you, but just kind of your process and your team, and just some of the stuff that you send out, via email as well, which we can maybe talk about too.
Thank you. I always say it's better to be, proactive versus reactive, especially in this industry. There's so many things that can come up, and, you never want, someone saying, what's the next step? And I always say at the point when someone has to reach out and be like, well, what now? I feel like I fail. Like, I want, you to know what to expect. And I always relate it to the time, completely off topic, but I remember going through something really scary in my life, and it was LASIK eye surgery, Andy. I don't know if I've ever told you this, but
no, you haven't.
I got LASIK.
My wife just had it like 2 weeks ago too.
She did?
Yeah.
She love it?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Good. I want to hear more about that. I'll have to talk with you, but 10 years ago I got it, Andy, and the reason I bring this up is when you have a laser in your eye, like, that's terrifying. And some people would, see home ownership as such. And so when I was getting my LASIK, the surgeon had told me exactly what to expect. You're going to hear what sounds like bees in a can. Your eyesight is going to go gray for, a minute. You're going to have lots of water. He prepared me. So when all these things happened, I was like, I'm okay. And he kept telling me the whole time, I got you. And when I think about people buying a home, it's their biggest purchase. We talk about this all the time. If they don't have that surgeon of the person like I had, like, it can be a terrible experience. It can be scary. It can be, if you don't have confidence when you're signing on the dotted line, like, it just sucks the fun and the excitement out of homeownership. So I always think back to that, and I relate it to, what experience I want my clients to have.
Sure. So, I like that. I think that's a really good analogy. And you're right. And we're working in, increasingly to provide more and better information. And, Kayla, there are some clients out there, or some people that it's like, hey, just let me know when I need to do something. And then there are some out there that you can't give them enough information, or they can't research enough information. They're just so invested in the process. So it's, trying to cater to everyone and give them, what they need, and kind of on their own terms.
Right. And I've had people say, just give me the high level overview. I don't want to know it's overwhelming. And some are like, I want to know all the details. And so by giving someone like a map or a link or, giving them all the info up front. It's kind of up to them how much they want to dive into certain things, but every client's different for sure.
Right on. Well,
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit more later about, kind of your process and some of
Yeah.
that, because I think that'll be eye-opening
Yeah.
for people out there, especially as they're thinking, because again, as you say, 'tis the season, if you're going to do something, to start, thinking about a lender and agent and kind of working through that pre-approval process, because, the market's about to heat up and we're going to see, hopefully a lot more inventory coming on
Yeah.
in the not too distant future. And speaking of inventory, I know I touched on it last time, but we just finished our spec house that we built, which
Yay.
has been kind of fun. And I know I've shared, kind of an exterior picture periodically, Kayla, but I don't know if you've even seen, the inside of it. So I just kind of
No.
wanted to show some of our followers kind of a big open main area. We just put, kind of a couch in for staging, just to kind of give some perspective. We had an open house this weekend, Kayla, and we had about 7 people come to the open house, and then I
Nice.
think I've had 6 private showings now of the property, and I've had people that have come in and have said, well, there have been a couple that, hey, it just isn't a fit for them, but I've had some that have said, hey, this is everything you need and nothing that you don't.
Mm-hmm.
It's very well thought out. I'd probably make a couple changes. I've learned a lot of valuable things kind of
Mm-hmm.
going through the process. We did end up over budget a little bit, which is not uncommon.
Sure.
Yeah,
Not at
and
all.
and we had worked some wiggle room into it. The project in the end probably won't be quite as profitable as we would have imagined. But hey, we got out there and we did something, and we learned, and I think we've had fun doing it as well. I was talking to a client of mine who I've been visiting with about purchasing a home for a while, and I told him roughly what we were over budget, and he's like, "Oh, that's nothing." He said, "I've the last build that I did for myself, I was $600,000 over budget."
Oh, wow. Okay, a little much. We always, when we do like new construction loans, we always kind of estimate like 10%. Like, okay, just
Yep.
give yourself some budget. Or when people build with like, the heritage homes or the Dabberts or what have you, they have allowances built in with the builder. But yeah, you often kind of go a little bit over. And once you get in there, you're like, hey, we're in here, we're doing it. Why not do that
Yep.
upgrade? So,
Yep, exactly. But, just kind of like in our personal finances, and I know you look into people's finances way more than I do, but,
mhm.
$20 here and $20 there, you don't think about it, but it adds up. And the
Yeah,
same with home construction and add-ons and new construction.
it does.
It's just kind of crazy.
It adds up really fast. I always tell people, when I'm talking to clients, I'm like, you would be shocked if you went through like your Apple subscriptions, like how many, like even myself, I'm like, I wonder, like, what's that $15 one? Or, I looked and I was using Audible, but I wasn't listening. So I just went and used my credits and used it, bought a bunch and start there. But it adds up so fast. And I've had clients that did that and they're like, okay, we did that. We went through our Peloton is $44, XYZ. And I mean, hundreds of dollars to where they were more comfortable going up in a purchase price. Like that's how much it can impact. So I challenge
Mhm.
anyone that's listening, like just take 20 minutes and just go through and make sure you know what's coming through on your account because I've been guilty, especially when it comes to with Apple. Just
Right.
saying. Yeah.
Yeah, same. I try to revisit it once in a while. I don't know if, and I don't want to mention the Rocket name here because of course Rocket Mortgage is a competitor, but have you seen their ads like for the Rocket? They have like a
Mhm.
finance app where if you basically give them your information and it will look through your bank accounts to find all of your subscriptions. And
Mm.
people are shocked. Like some people have even had multiple subscriptions to the same place. I actually just had that happen. We used to use white pages to kind of look up information
Oh,
for
yeah.
people. And now we have kind of a product that's worked into our real estate, our MLS association dues. So we don't need it. And so I got rid of it. And then I still see it popping up. And I'm like, what is going on? Well, I had a second subscription
Oh my
because at a
God.
time we were looking for more addresses and it was just more cost effective. But, it's really easy to just waste money with things like that.
It really is. And especially when you when it's like auto subscriptions too, like if you don't order, it's going to just randomly send you stuff. My girlfriend, Rachel, she's like, I will not sign up for those things because I will fall into the trap. And it happens. Like, just cancel it. Like, just cancel.
I was doing a contract flying trip just last week, and one of the individuals I was flying basically had all these boxes from Amazon of water, and I'm like, "What's this?" He said, "Well, I had a water subscription, and it was coming to my mom and dad's house, and so I've got like 2 years worth of water here that I need to just bring back with me."
Oh my gosh. Well, and it adds up. We do Melaleuca, and I'm like, okay, I have enough laundry detergent. So we, take it all to the lake and we, gift it. It's like at some point you just, what's it worth? But yeah,
Mhm,
we're all part of it. But I think
mhm,
it's just really eye-opening when you really break it down. So
for sure.
yeah,
Well, Kayla, I was looking around a little bit online and just kind of I've been, most days kind of like you, I'm sure, read some real estate news, and
of
I
course.
kind of found our old friend Barbara Corcoran in the news here
Ah,
talking
Barbara.
about how housing market challenges aren't
Hmm.
over yet.
Hmm.
So she appeared on Fox Business and kind of said that buyers and sellers aren't out of the woods when it comes to the challenges of the market. And the biggest thing that she asserts here is just the fact that, yep, rates have inched downward, with the 30-year fixed falling by a fraction of a point to, the upper sixes. Um, and just talking about how this minimal drop isn't enough to spur major activity. And so, of course, mentally, from a psychological standpoint, we know that, getting below, kind of like if we're pricing a house 699 is, psychologically better than 700, but so
Hmm.
it'll, mentally it's going to be favorable, but it's not much to
Hmm.
get people very interested, especially sellers. Not really wanting
Yeah.
to put that house on the market. And then Barbara talks about the other fact, Kayla, is that nationwide, a lot of houses are sitting on the market for at least 55 days. I know some new
Wow.
home builders in our area, just from getting emails, especially in the Fargo Moorhead area. The fact that they're sitting on, quite a lot of new inventory that really hasn't moved at all. And now, in
Mhm.
talking to some of them again, I know that. Some things are starting to loosen up, starting to get some
Yeah.
contracts. But as I've been working with now some mutual clients of ours who decided on a new construction home, one of the homes, and maybe even I think the one that we offered on and have an accepted offer, they had
Mhm.
said in the agent remarks, "Hey, this house is in the parade of homes, fall of 2024, no closings till October of 24 or after, whatever." And it's like,
Mhm.
boy, that's been sitting out there for a long time. And now, as I'm looking as kind of an aspiring home builder and just looking at my carrying costs, and it's like, hey, even though we went over budget, we still stand the opportunity to make some money on it. But if we carry it the rest of the year, there probably won't be any profit. So it's
Yeah,
such a challenging piece, but the
it
consumer
is.
sentiment is challenging.
Well, and I think too, the whole like 7%, 699. I just ran a quick just numbers. I plugged in 450,000 with 5% down, just a purchase price. Andy, do you want to guess how much 0.125% makes in a payment? Again, 450 is a pretty decent sized, home. I'd say that could be a move up or first time buyer.
Mhm.
Maybe someone looking to just, downsize. But what do you think the monthly payment changes by 0.125%? Because we hear, oh my gosh, 7%. But then when you drop in, like they said, like a 699 or 6875, you want to take a guess on how much that
Over 30 years.
30 years, 30 year.
Okay.
Yep.
I
Yep.
am going to guess a couple $100.
Per month,
Yes.
$36.
Okay.
Now, right? Like most people will be like, even I had to do the math. I'm like, is that right? Like, because we're running numbers all day. But when you think about, again, it's based on the loan size, based on, a percentage,
Yep.
it can make such a difference. And so I always just challenge people, like when I'm talking to a client and they're like, we want rates to drop. I'm like, well, tell me, how much do you want rates to drop? And they're like, by 0.5%. I'll do the math based on their budget and what they want. And I'll say, okay, if they drop to this, it's going to change your payment to this. How do you feel about that? And they're like, that's all. And it's like, yes. Now, again, depending on your loan size. I mean, if we're talking $1 million loan size, that can be significant. But it's just, again, the sentiment, it's the thought, it's the psychological. And so I think that there's a lot of buyers that are getting past that, but a lot that are still like hanging on to, gosh, like rates are going to drop to, 3% again. I'm just going to wait. So,
Mhm. Yeah. Well, I think across the board and going hand in hand with what Barbara's article talked about, this other Inman one that I found, talks about, hey, there is a lot of anxiety out there in the market, not only over mortgage rates, but also about rents, and
mhm.
home prices as well. And a lot of that is tied to Donald Trump and kind of the new administration, especially
Mhm.
as, there's a lot of talk about tariffs. I know you had shared with me kind of the tariff threat out there, adding to home builder pain and uncertainty, because
Mhm.
home builders are really not sure, hey, if we start seeing tariffs on things from Canada and Mexico, aluminum, steel, and imports, and lumber and everything else, like, there
Mhm.
could be some significant challenges in the
Mhm.
market. And, again, as the Inman article talks about that, there's a lot of uncertainty, and even inflation expectations have soared after the announcement. So what
Mhm.
do you make of that?
Andy, I've talked to my friends, I've talked to my husband, I've talked to my mother. She's, like she's so involved. I love it. I don't understand it enough to really, have an opinion, and I want to research it more. But all I do know is that if there's going to be a tax on imports, or if we're going to see a higher cost, it's going to trickle down to the consumer. So, I mean, I'm guessing a lot of the builders aren't just going to absorb that cost. I'm guessing they would pass it along just like anything else. I remember during COVID, I mean, we were seeing prices skyrocket for things, and they had to pass it on to the consumer. Most builders weren't just saying, okay, it's going to cost us more, we'll just take it. I mean, it's with anything. Look at lenders with, credit reports. I've seen some credit reports cost $250, and some cost, 170. So, when we see these changes, yeah, it's going to impact probably our consumers' bottom line, but it's hard to say what's going to happen with these tariffs.
Yeah. Well, and will the tariffs come, or is it just kind of a
Mhm.
bargaining chip to kind of get,
Yep.
more secure borders? That's what it's looked
Right.
like so far. But this
Right.
article, Kayla, does talk about the fact that the National Association of Home Builders warned that more than 70% of imported softwood lumber and gypsum used for drywall comes from Canada and Mexico. Home builders will face a 40% duty on lumber from Canada if the proposed tariff is added to existing duties.
Mm.
Fannie Mae's monthly home or national housing survey, which wrapped up before tariffs were announced, also found that consumers are worried that inflation will make affordability worse.
Mm.
So there's a lot of pessimism out there in the
Yeah.
market right now. The
Yeah.
thing that I worry about too for home builders is, having known some home builders that went through COVID, and I've
Yeah.
worked with some, who have been developing, and, they had their prices locked in. They had things prepaid, but then prices went up. And I know the lumber suppliers did not always um,
Mhm.
honor that. So that's super, super challenging.
I do remember that too. It was wild. In fact, I remember that exact scenario. And then prices of the house, the final purchase price was changing. And then what was happening was there was a delay in many items. I mean, I waited a year for a couch. I mean, think about what these home builders were
No, I
experiencing.
remember that.
Yeah. Oh, and then they dropped it. Do you remember that? Oh, don't get me started. Anyway, and it was
Well, it's
white.
not as bad as the robotic vacuum incident.
Oh, oh yes. Oh my gosh, Andy. We'll have to share that maybe in the future. Oh my gosh. Let's just say I had to throw those rugs away and that poor dog. Anyway. Oh gosh, little sweetheart. But I remember rates were locked in. Like we have a 1 year 12-month lock that you can lock in your rate on new construction. And I had many clients that they were locked in for that year. But what was happening were, the cost of these things and the changes and the delay were pushing it. And so rates were moving, and people were like, okay, we have to extend our lock or pay for a lock. So clients were paying for an extended lock, paying for the cost of, increased lumber. It was a wild time. And people always compare, oh my gosh, I wish I had a 2875 rate or a 3% rate. And I'm like, but do you want to go and deal with all the things those people
Right.
dealt with? Because that was wild for
There were
sure.
a lot of stressors, and a lot of stressors today, as we're seeing with consumer sentiment and anxiety. And, I know a lot of it obviously tied to the new administration. Kayla, I came upon this TikTok the other day,
Oh boy.
and I wanted to share it, as long as we're kind of, talking about Donald Trump a little
Yeah.
bit, and we're talking about Canada. And, and we hear every time there's an election, someone is leaving and is
Yeah.
going to move
Always.
somewhere, and hey, the grass is greener on the other side. But, I think this is a little bit relevant, especially as we're talking about everything that's going on. So I'm going to just share this really quick.
Goodbye, Donald Trump. We're finally moving to Canada. Oh, hey, you guys are actually doing it this time. Sick. Well, welcome to Canada, where the average house takes 3 times as long to afford versus America, where the unemployment rate is 50% higher than America's, where you can't legally own a handgun, but where you can legally get an abortion. That is, if you can deal with the 6 months it takes to see a doctor. Where we're probably going to end up electing a conservative to run our country anyways in the next year, and where we somehow got conned into paying a carbon tax, even though our trees absorb 110% of our carbon emissions on average every single year. Yeah, but hey, at least we've got Tim Hortons, poutine, and way less Florida.
Oh my.
What do you think of that?
Oh, have you ever had poutine?
I have.
Well, my hometown was like 2 miles south of Canada, so
Yeah.
I'm basically Canadian, but I didn't know that a lot of those facts. I had no idea about a lot of that. Did you?
So you'd go across the border for French fries and gravy quite often?
Yeah, or for like literally we'd go tan, we'd get our hair done, we'd go shopping. I mean, Winkler, Manitoba, prom, we'd go there for dinner. Yeah, it was a cool thing. So
Cool. Yeah,
yeah.
so I didn't know a lot of that, but again, I mean, it's a little bit satirical that hey,
Little
we're
bit.
moving and whatever. But so when we talk about affordability and we think that hey, homeownership is tough in the U.S., I mean, I didn't know that homeownership was
Mhm.
all that much more challenging.
Yeah, and
In
I've
Canada.
heard now, I don't know where the stat came from, but that the United States, again, I could be wrong, but I've heard this a few times, is one of the only places where you can get a 30-year fixed mortgage. And again, I
Yes.
don't know, but I've heard that it's a lot harder to get financing in other countries. But I'd be curious. I should do some research on that.
Yeah, you know what? I was watching something from an agent in Canada the other day who was just talking about some differences, and I want to say, I mean, you're basically locked in for 5 years or whatever, and it might even be less than that, but the rate constantly changes. So, well, I guess they probably don't have the same problems we're having right now with people holding on to their homes in
Yeah.
perpetuity because of a low rate because their rate never stays low for long.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that's a good point. Again, never thought of that. Maybe in our next episode we can talk about other countries and their requirements for a mortgage.
Did you see, speaking of Donald Trump, and then we'll be done with the satire, but talking about the fact that Trump wants Greenland and the Danes say they'll trade it for California?
I
Did you see
didn't
that
see
news?
that. What is this about?
Yeah, so basically Congress, is considering a bill to purchase Greenland and rename it Red, White, and Blue Land. And then and I think there is actually a bill out there, but the Danes actually want California, and Trump talks about how California is the worst state in the union and everything else, or he calls it the most ruined state in the union, and has feuded with them for years. And so I think they've been sparring back and forth, and Denmark has promised if they could come there that they would teach everyone to slow down a little bit.
Oh,
And
huh.
yeah,
We need some of that in our lives. Interesting, huh? Did not hear that one, but
yeah.
no, I would say Donald Trump's making some moves, and he's only been in office for a short time, and holy cow, like he's making some stuff happen. That's for sure.
Yeah, he is. And I mean, obviously, there's always going to be controversy when there's
Holy,
change, but it just, when you look at all of the waste and the spending in our country, and
yeah,
again, we see it every day, in households, or you do,
yeah.
as we're talking about Apple subscriptions and everything that it's so easy to spend money on. I think
Mhm.
it's about time that someone really revisits and cleans house a little bit.
Yep. And I'm kind of excited to see what happens because, yeah, change is hard and change is scary, but it'll be interesting to see what happens. And I can't help but think about what happens to home buyers and what happens to inventory and everything like that comes with that. So we'll see if Trump, in office has any impact on that.
I think it's going to be a wild ride. I think there's going to be a
Yeah.
lot of market fluctuation. Obviously, we know people still need housing, but it's going to be interesting as we kind of make it through
Mhm.
2025.
Yeah, we'll see. It'll be wild, but I'm here for it.
Kayla, I'm glad you're here for it. And I want to talk a little bit more, just because, again, we're just right ahead of the busy
Yeah.
spring housing season. So what better time than to talk about, kind of the pre-approval
Yeah.
process, so to speak. And like I said,
Mhm.
I was really impressed with, some of the things that you sent out. So I figured maybe,
Well,
we'll just pull them up
yeah.
and kind of share them a little bit. If you want to kind of talk about your
Yeah.
process and your team and
Yeah, I would
yes.
love to. I think, Andy, it's one of those things where, you know, I don't just send a client my link to apply. I think that you're doing a disservice. Like when you go to the doctor, we always say prescription without diagnosis is malpractice. When you go to the doctor, they ask you question after question so that they can best assist you. And I take that like doctor, nurse, that approach with my clients because, when I hear someone wants to buy a home, I want to know what's motivating you. What are your fears, your hopes, your dreams? What is your budget? What's your timeline? Is it going to be you on the loan? Is it going to be you and a friend? Is it going to be you and a spouse? Asking these questions it's so important. You might have 50 grand in your account, but you might only be comfortable, taking 10 grand out for a home. Or are you going to get a gift from a parent? Are you going to pull from 401k? Having these conversations, an application doesn't ask a lot of them. And selfishly, I like to know their dogs' names and their cats' names and all those things so that come closing day, we can customize our gifts to them. But, all of these things are important so that we can build rapport, get to know the people, and they can build that trust with me. They can be like, okay, I know Kayla. She talked to me. She spent time with me. And then I can tell them, here's what you're going to experience with the application. You're going to go through and you're going to fill it out. And it's going to, prompt you to upload some items like pay stubs, maybe bank statements. Maybe we need your tax returns because you're self-employed. So when I tell people, okay, get ready to do that, it just allows them to just be ready. It might take 20 minutes to do the app. You might need to do that with your spouse and just be prepared for that. So I always just have a discovery call and then I have them apply after that. And then once I can then view everything, Anna, she's my wonderful loan partner. She and I work together. So you get 2 for 1. So we do our diagnosis, right? Because we want to come up with the best, not just plan, but maybe plans and options for you. You tell me your budget, you tell me what you want to, pay out of pocket, you tell me everything. And so we go through and then we have another call or Zoom. I love when they do video meetings because I can share my screen and we might have spouses over lunch at, their offices. So we can, collaborate together. It's not me just talking to the husband and then him trying to regurgitate to the wife, things like that. So, once we have a meeting up front and you apply, we then go through and we talk about here are your options, not just like what you're approved up to, not maybe just a 10 grand monthly payment, but what does that look like in a monthly payment that you're comfortable with? You told me you want to afford 4 grand a month. Okay, what does that look like in price? Because Andy, where you come in is we need to, communicate with realtors and say, hey, they're approved up to here, but listen, their budget is here. So here's kind of the price range so that you can then customize your search with them. And so at that point, what I provide clients, as you see, is approval call, time to shop, and then accepted offer. It kind of just lets people know, okay, now go have fun, go shop for the home. You're approved. I tell them sometimes the highest offer is not the best. Let's talk to your realtor. We're a team here. Maybe we're going to ask for, asking price. We offer asking price, but no seller concessions. The next person might offer more. So just having those conversations as you're shopping is so important. And as you're showing here, once you're approved, again, it's being proactive. I can't tell you how many times in my past, because I didn't do this, and share with them, clients switched jobs. They took 10 grand cash out of their mattress and deposited it. They, basically moved money from account to an account, and we had to just basically gather so much documentation. So we also share with them, like, here's some things to do or not to do. Again, it's that proactive approach. So this is just kind of some of the things that we do. Again, we have a team, Kayla, Anna, Christina. You get to deal with all of us. Anna shines at the pre-approvals and collecting, and Christina shines at the communication, and we all come together. And I think it's important to have a team because, like right now I'm doing a podcast. If someone has a question, they've got Anna right there. And so we really just like to, again, have this proactive approach. We like to educate and empower our buyers so that when they're shopping, they know exactly what the payment is, Andy. They know exactly what the closing costs are. And yes, some things can change like rate or insurance or down payment, but there's nothing better than a client that's writing an offer with you, Andy, and they're like, hey, I know what to expect. Kayla told me, versus, gosh, I hope my payment isn't too high. And then they find out they have to bring an extra 30 grand to closing. So we really just take an approach of a very collaborative effort with my team, the realtor, and the client. So that kind of, in a 10-minute explanation, sums it
Yeah.
up.
No, I love it. Tonight, and just speaking to that, I love how proactive you are, just having
Mhm.
worked with you, and trusting, one of my longtime friends, with you as a lender. And I don't think I've ever seen a lender that spent so much time, even before we're even going to make an offer, to do digging like on taxes and special
Yeah.
assessments, which, as we know, in the Fargo Moorhead area, that can be challenging in some of the communities. And normally I'm sifting through all of that. And, one challenge we have in my more immediate market in Fergus Falls is within the city. If there are special assessments, you literally can go nowhere online to find them. You have to go to a
Mhm.
clerk at the city to
Yeah.
get that information. And there are a lot of people that don't know that, including lenders, because they look at the county tax statement and they're like, oh, there's nothing on the county tax statement. Well, the city bills them separate. So we've gotten into some
Yeah.
tough situations, and that's why, again, it's important to use someone who's local and knowledgeable on these things so that you
Mhm.
don't run into unexpected situations.
I love that you say that, because in Fargo, Moorhead, West Fargo, Horace, it is a different beast. And this can be a whole other topic for another time about special assessments and new construction, because it can change drastically your payment based on where you're building. And, in some cases we can do a calculation, but we sometimes have to get the county involved, and or the title company, or reach out to the city to really, especially in Horace, where new development is booming, but it can really change a payment, Andy, like hundreds of dollars. And then on top of it, you also get a tax abatement that comes into play, that you get a reduction in your taxes.
Sure.
But we lenders have to approve you on the full amount, not the discounted. And again, it comes down to, I don't want a surprise. Like when we built our house, I don't want my payment to continue to go up because my lender didn't say, oh, you have 60,000 in specials that we didn't account for. That's going to change your payment. Nobody wants that. And it's important to be on top of that as a lender, because also that can impact, we're in arrears taxes. So you go all year, Andy, and you don't know what your tax statement's going to be till December. And guess what? That can come out and be a lot higher than you thought. And that can require you write a big check at the end of the year, or your payment changes. And so, if you're already behind and then it's going to change again in the new year, we've seen people's payments change dramatically. Like I'm saying $600-700, and that should not happen. And so having a lender that's going to do that research, you need that, especially in Fargo Moorhead. And that's why a lot of the local realtors are very hesitant to get those rocket approvals or things like that, because they don't want their clients to suffer. They don't want the deal to fall through. And it's just so darn important.
Yep, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's cool too that you have an app, Kayla.
Oh, yes, I do. Yeah, you can text Kayla K to 36260. And essentially you can apply, you can message me, you can text me, you can see, how we share the mortgage news daily rates every week. You can follow along with, what the market is doing. Just a lot of cool tools. There's a calculator in there. Now, we always run payments for people. We always want to be the ones, but sometimes people just want to play around and say, what does $5,000 do? And so it just empowers people. It allows them to just be better, like educated, I would say, with their payments.
So, and maybe I should pick this up. Just say if I'm finding you're not responding to me, this isn't just one more way to contact you.
Just another way. I always joke with my my loan partner, like, you can Snapchat me, Facebook me, Instagram me, text me, all the ways you're going to get a hold of Kayla and her team. So
No, I love it.
yeah,
Awesome.
so it's helpful.
Well, Kayla, I think that's really insightful, kind of talking about your process. And so obviously if people, have questions or are just starting to ponder it, now's a great time, to reach out to Kayla or your favorite lender and get the ball rolling if you're going to do something this spring before everything takes off and gets crazy.
I agree. And the thing is too, is even if you are already approved, it doesn't hurt, if you guys, anyone listening wants me to take a look at, what you're approved for, or, hey, here's what my lender is quoting me for a rate and fees. Like, I will, for no cost, doesn't cost you anything, but take a peek at it, a second look. It doesn't hurt to get another opinion, and it's free to you. Again, just doesn't cost you anything. It's just me doing my due diligence.
Awesome. Well, Kayla, thanks for all of your knowledge. Thanks
Yeah.
for the great care. I think it's going to be a really, really great year for those that are, teed up and ready to go. Obviously, there's
Mhm.
uncertainty. There's, some consumer sentiments that isn't great, but kind of mind over matter,
Mhm.
and go chase those real estate goals.
Yeah. Amen. And, like you said, proactive. If you're interested in buying this year, there's no better time than now. I mean, I'd rather know ahead of time than know, a week before. I mean, it doesn't hurt to just be that much more prepared.
Yeah.
So reach
Well,
out.
Kayla, great connecting as always. I hope you have a great rest of the week.
I will if you will.
See ya.
Bye, Andy.